Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here. We're on Unit 9, Lesson 4, and we are looking at a new form of the linear equation. And this time it is in the form of y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and this is called the slope point form. Now, previous to this, we learned about the general form, and the general form is in the form of ax plus by plus c equals 0, and the slope y-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Okay, and each one of these different forms are useful in different situations, but we need to be able to move between them. Okay, I'm going to just skip past the investigation here and move right down into our examples right here. So we're starting off with state the equation in slope point form. So the slope point form is going to be in that form that we just saw. So we need to understand what all these different variables in that equation are representing. So this is the equation right here, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, this y right here and this x right here are going to be a point. So some point that lands on that line, we're going to have the x1 comma y1. The m is the slope. Okay, so we can, like I said, use this depending on what information we have and move between different formats to get different types of information. So let's move right into it here. It says state the equation right here in slope point form given a line that's going through a point and the slope. So in this case, part A, it's going to be a point 6,5, and the slope is going to be 3. So all we have to do is basically just replace this one, the y1, the x1, and our slope. Okay, so this starts off with y minus, now y1, if we label this as x and y, just so we don't make a mistake, it's going to be y minus 5 equals m, which is going to be 3, times x minus x1, which is going to be 6, and that's it. We're all done. It's as easy as that. So let's move on to the second one. Y minus, well, this is x and y. Now in this case, notice that y is a negative 1. So really this can be y minus negative 1. And we know that when we're going y minus negative 1, that becomes y plus 1 equals the slope, negative 4, bracket, x minus, and in this case, 1, and that is all done. Moving on to C, same thing. Y minus, in this case, it's going to be minus the xy, the negative 8, minus negative becomes plus 8 equals, this time the slope is a fraction, 1 over 2, times x minus, and in this case it's negative 9, so minus negative 9 becomes plus 9, and we are done. Okay, so in class example 1, we were given a point and a slope of the line, and we were able to take that and just substitute it right into the slope point form equation, and that's quite easy to do. Now on class example 2, they're giving us a slope again and another point, but this time they want us to put it into the slope y-intercept form. So you're gonna have to get used to hearing that and knowing what form that is. So slope y-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. But when we look at y equals mx plus b, remember, we need to have a value for m and we need to have a value for b, which is the y-intercept. But in this case, that's not given to us. We have a point It is not where x equals 0, which is the y-intercept. So we need to somehow calculate the y-intercept. But we are given slope. So to do that, what we're going to do is start off with the slope point form. So this is going to be y minus, now I'm going to label this as x and y minus the y point is 2 equals m times x minus negative 5 becomes plus 5. Now, oops, I should have substituted the m with our value that's given, which is 5. Now I can take this and sort of expand it out. So I get y minus 2 equals 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 5 is plus 25. Okay, and now if you look right here, I've got a y minus 2 on the left. So I'm going to gather all the like terms by adding 2 to this side. That cancels that, and I'm going to add 2 to this side. And basically we end up with now y equals 5x plus 27, and there we are, we're in the correct format. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, reduce it down in size, and we'll move on to part B. Resize. Boom. Just give me 1 second here to move that over. Okay, now what about part B? Well, it's the same thing. I got a slope of -7 and a point of -3,4, and I got to put it into the slope y-intercept form. So I've got a point x right here and a point y, and it's going to be y minus y1, which is 4, equals m, which is -7, times x minus -3 becomes plus 3. We're going to expand that out like we did in part A. Y minus 4 equals -7x minus 21. To put it into the correct format, I'm going to gather like terms by taking this plus 4, canceling it on the left, and we're left with y equals -7x minus 17. Okay, taking a look at class example number 3, we've got 2 students solving a question on a quiz, it says, and they're asked to determine the equation and put it into general form. What do we know? It has a slope of -2, and it passes through a point of 3, -5. John starts off using y equals mx plus b, so the slope y-intercept form, and Nikki starts off using the slope point form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and it says to complete their work and see if we can basically come up with the correct answer in both cases. So let's start off with John. So basically right now you can see that all the variables have been filled in except for b. So in this case we could move along saying -5 equals -6 plus b. If I add 6 to both sides, that cancels that, and I basically end up with b equals 1. So that's telling me what the value of the y-intercept is. So now I can put it into the form of y equals m, what's the slope? -2x plus 1. Now that is in the slope y-intercept form with the y-intercept calculated, but now we're supposed to put it into general form, which is the ax plus by plus c equals 0. So we want to keep the x positive in this case right at the beginning, so we're going to move it over by adding 2 x's, and we're going to subtract 1 from this side, basically leaving nothing on the left, or sorry, on the right, and we're going to end up with on the left 2x plus y minus 1 equals 0. So let's go check out Nikki's work and see if we end up with the same thing. Okay, so y minus negative 5 is going to be y plus 5 equals negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. I'm going to subtract 5 from this side, which means I subtract 5 from that side. On the left, we're going to have y equals negative 2x plus 1. So we're literally back to where John was. And now we would do the exact same thing to put it into the general form. 2x plus y minus 1 equals 0. Okay, here we go with class example 4. So we have a grid and a line on the grid that's passing through some points. So we got to find some actual points that are passing through exact sort of coordinates right here, and there would be one right there, and it looks like one right at the x-intercept. So first thing I'm going to do is label these points. So this one up top I'll call point A, let's say. It's at negative 6 in the x and 0 in the y. And this other one down here that I'll call point B is negative 2 in the x and negative 3 in the y. So I like to label these out as x1, y1 and x2, y2. Okay, and what are we asked to do in this case? We want to determine the equation of line in general form. Okay, so some things that we need to know are for example, what is the slope, what is the y-intercept, and what is one of the points. Okay, so I can start off with trying to figure out our slope, and remember that slope equals the change in y over the change in x, which equals y2 minus y1, which is negative 3 minus 0 over x2 minus x1, which is negative 2 over or minus negative 6, which is plus 6. That gives us a value of negative 3 over 4. So the slope is negative 3 over 4. Recognize that it's a negative slope, and that is true because we're approaching from the left and then going down, indicating that it has a negative slope. So we've just calculated the slope. So resize this, put it over here. Now I have two other points on there. At this point I can just use any one of those 2 points. So I needed 2 of them in order to figure out the slope, but now I just need 1 of them. And I'm going to start off with the slope point form, which is going to be y minus y1, which is going to be 0, equals m, which is negative 3 over 4, times x minus negative minus negative 6, which becomes a plus 6. So in this case, y minus 0 is just y, and that's going to equal negative 3 over 4 times x becomes negative 3 over 4x, and negative 3 times 6 is negative 18 over 4, and we could reduce that down to a negative 9 over 2. So I'll just erase this part right here that we've reduced it down and move this one over. So we now have our equation in the slope intercept form, but we need to get it into general form, and we know with the general form we cannot have fractions. We must have everything as integers. So I'm going to find a common denominator, which in this case is 4, and everything is going to be multiplied by 4. So first of all, 4 times y, that is 4y, equals 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, divided by 4 is negative 3x, and 4 times negative 9 is negative 36, and negative 36 divided by 2 is negative 18. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to make this a little bit smaller so we've got some room to work. Oops. Okay, so in this case, we're almost there. I just need to add 3x to both sides and add 18 to both sides and put it into the correct order, which is going to be 3x plus 4y plus 18 equals, and don't forget everything on the right hand side will cancel out, so it's going to equal 0, and that is our final answer. Okay, the last one, class example 5, and then we'll move on to the assignment here on page 582. Okay, so in this case it says indicate or state what the slope of the line is and write the coordinates of a point on that line. Well, the first one's really easy because the slope is m, and it's just going to be the 1/7. Now, what about the point? Well, remember, we're looking for an x and a y point. And remember what this is right here. This is y minus whatever that value is, y1. And this is going to be x minus x point, the point of x. Now, because it's positive with the y plus 11, that means that this would be a negative 11 in there, because minus negative 11 becomes plus 11. And with the x minus 4, it would just be a 4 in there. So by putting the brackets right there, it makes it a little bit easier to not make the mistake. So a lot of students would put down the x is negative 4 and the y is 11, but it's actually the opposite of that. It is going to be x is a 4 and the y is negative 11. So that is a point that is on that line. That's one of them anyways. So the next one, slope equals negative 5/3. And again, what are the points going to be? Well, in this case, if I look at the x first, if it's negative 7, it means it's positive 7. If it's a negative 9 with the y, it means it's a positive 9 on the y point right there. Okay, moving on to part C. It's the same equation, just looks a little bit different, because really what we have is y minus 0 equals negative 3 times x minus 6. So again, the slope, m, is going to be negative 3, and the point that we have there, the x value, it says x minus 6, so it's going to be a positive 6, and the 0, it just stays as a 0. Okay, and here we go, moving on to part D, or example D right here. In this case, we don't have a bracket around this, so we can't say that the x is going to be a 6. In fact, this negative 6 right here is sort of on the wrong side if we have the equation in this format here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 6 to both sides in this case. So what we end up with is y plus 6 equals negative 3x, and there's sort of nothing down here. So in this case, what is the slope? Well, the slope is going to be negative 3, the value in front of the x right there, and the point is going to be, basically this is like this, minus 0. There's nothing there. It's 3 times x and 3 times, in this case, 0. So that's sort of what it would look like if we wrote it out in its entirety. So what is the x value? Well, it is 0. And what is the y value? Because it's a positive 6 right here, it's going to be a negative 6. And that's it. Now there's just questions all the way through to page 585, and the answers are there at the bottom. See you in class.